What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Friday, September 11th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, NBA playoffs. Let's take a look at this 2-game main slate. Okay, at the point guard position, I like Kyle Lowry from the Toronto Raptors playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing point guards. Kyle Lowry has averaged 39.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 36 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. He scored 60, 23, and 53 fantasy points in the last 3 games, so he's projected at 42.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.8 times value. He's $8,900 FanDuel salary and $300 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 204.5 points scored in this game. I think it's going to be more than that. I would take the over on that one. So I like Kyle Lowry here versus the Boston Celtics. Okay, if you're looking to save some money at the point guard position, take a look at Lou Williams from the LA Clippers playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing point guards. But Lou Williams has averaged 30.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 29% usage rate. He scored 21, 25, and 30 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 27, and 29 minutes. He's projected at 25.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.6 times value, but he can get hot and get you 30 fantasy points or more and get you over 5 times value. So I like Lou Williams here versus the Denver Nuggets. Oh, he's $5,500 FanDuel salary and $300 more on DraftKings. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 216.5 points scored in this game. So yeah, I like Lou Williams here versus the Denver Nuggets. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I'm going to give you a couple value plays here. I like Gary Harris from the Denver Nuggets playing the LA Clippers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing shooting guards. Gary Harris has averaged 20.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. He scored 22, 31, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 23, 35, and 29 minutes. So you just hope he's going to get up towards that 28-minute mark, but he's projected at 22.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.5 times value. He's $5,000 FanDuel salary, but he's $400 less on DraftKings. So I like that DraftKings price. So I like Gary Harris here versus the LA Clippers. The other play that I like is shooting guard. You can take a chance on this guy. He had a breakout game last game. If you think that continues, take a look at Norman Powell from the Toronto Raptors playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing shooting guards. Norman Powell has averaged 26.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 28 minutes per game with a 22% usage rate. He scored 35 fantasy points last game in 38 minutes, and he did score 20 fantasy points the game before that in 31 minutes. So he's projected at 24.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.9 times value. He's $5,000 FanDuel salary, and he's $600 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. So I like Norman Powell here versus the Boston Celtics. Okay, who do we have at the small forward position? I like Kawhi Leonard from the LA Clippers playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing small forwards. Kawhi Leonard has averaged 47.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 74, 51, and 45 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 38, 42, and 38 minutes. He's projected at 51.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.7 times value. He's 11,000 FanDuel salary and 600 less on DraftKings. So I like Kawhi Leonard here versus the Denver Nuggets. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. The other small forward that I like here is Jalen Brown from the Boston Celtics playing the Toronto Raptors, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Jalen Brown has averaged 33.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 25% usage rate. He scored 56, 42, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 51, 37, and 37 minutes. Monster minutes for Jalen Brown. He's projected at 37.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.8 times value. He's 7,800 FanDuel salary and 200 more on DraftKings. So I like Jalen Brown here versus the Toronto Raptors. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. I'm going to give you a couple value plays here. I like Daniel Tice from the Boston Celtics playing the Toronto Raptors, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 12th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Daniel Tice has averaged 24.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 24 minutes per game with a 15% usage rate. He scored 32, 31, and 23 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 47, 30, and 25 minutes. He's projected at 28.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 5,600 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. So I like Daniel Tice here versus the Toronto Raptors. And the other power forward that I like is Michael Porter Jr. from the Denver Nuggets playing the LA Clippers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Michael Porter Jr. has averaged 18.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 16 minutes per game with a 23% usage rate. But take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 27, 40, and 25 fantasy points, playing 33, 23, and 16 minutes. So it looks like his minutes have been ramping up. His production has been much better. He's projected at 27.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. I think he's the best value play on the slate here. He's 5,200 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. So I like Michael Porter Jr. here versus the LA Clippers. Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets playing the LA Clippers, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 13th most fantasy points to opposing centers. Nikola Jokic has averaged 44.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He scored 48, 54, and 57 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 38, 38, and 37 minutes. So big minutes, nice production, nice consistent production, and he's projected at 49.6 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 9,900 FanDuel salary and 100 more on DraftKings. So I like Nikola Jokic here versus the LA Clippers. Oh, and a nice value play here at the center position. I like Ivica Zubac from the LA Clippers playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a good defense overall, and they've been middle of the pack defending opposing centers. Zubac has averaged 21.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 18 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He scored 27, 9, and 25 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 29, 21, and 20 minutes. So his minutes have been improving here, and he's projected at 24.3 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 4,700 FanDuel salary and 300 more on DraftKings. So I like Ivica Zubac here versus the Denver Nuggets. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.